that will take us to the very bottom of Belize's Great Blue Hole. We'll be venturing into the dark depths of the Great Blue Hole, promoting ocean awareness.
For 50 years, the government of Belize refused to let anyone explore the bottom of the Great Blue Hole. They said it was too dangerous. They said the technology did not exist. They said some places were better left alone. But in 2018, a billionaire and a team of scientists ignored those warnings and descended into the darkness anyway. What they discovered was worse than anything they had imagined. There is something at the bottom of this hole that was never supposed to be found. Descent into darkness. Off the coast of Belize, approximately 70 kilometers from the mainland, there exists one of the most haunting natural formations on Earth. The Great Blue Hole is a massive underwater sinkhole that measures 318 meters across and plunges 124 meters into the ocean floor. From space, it looks like a giant dark eye staring up from the Caribbean Sea. The almost perfect circular shape and the stark contrast between the deep sapphire waters at its center and the turquoise shallows surrounding it make this one of the most visually stunning geological features on the planet. For decades, scuba divers and snorkelers have been drawn to this mysterious place. They would cruise along the surface waters, mesmerized by the vibrant coral formations and the abundant marine life that calls Lighthouse Reef Atoll home. Reef sharks glided through the crystal-clear waters. Ancient sea turtles moved slowly past massive coral structures that had been growing for thousands of years. Everything seemed peaceful and inviting in those upper waters, but very few dared to venture deeper. Very few had the courage or the technology to explore what lay beyond the point where sunlight fades and darkness begins to swallow everything. That changed in the winter of 2018. A team from Aquatica Submarines arrived at the Great Blue Hole with an ambitious mission. The expedition was led by British billionaire Richard Branson, alongside Fabien Cousteau, who happened to be the grandson of the legendary ocean explorer Jacques Cousteau. The chief pilot was a remarkable woman named Erica Bergman, and together they planned to do something no one had ever accomplished before. They were going to create the first complete three-dimensional sonar map of the entire sinkhole interior. Using state-of-the-art Aquatica Stingray, 500 submarines equipped with Kongsberg Mesotech dual-axis and multi-beam sonar technology, the team conducted 22 dives over the course of 2 weeks, from November 27th to December 13th, 2018. As they began their descent in their submersibles, the first 90 meters seemed almost magical. They passed the usual inhabitants of this underwater world. Caribbean reef sharks circled curiously around the strange metal vessels. Giant groupers watched from the shadows of coral overhangs. Schools of colorful fish scattered and regrouped as the submarines descended deeper and deeper. But something began to change as they approached 90 meters. What lay beneath that depth would force scientists to rewrite everything they thought they knew about this place, and what they found resting on the bottom would haunt them forever. The graveyard below. At approximately 290 to 300 feet below the surface, the Aquatica crew encountered something extraordinary and terrifying. A thick, impenetrable layer stretched across the entire width of the sinkhole like a floating blanket of death. This was a massive concentration of hydrogen sulfide, a toxic gas that forms when bacteria break down organic matter in the complete absence of oxygen. Erica Bergman later described the experience in vivid detail. She explained that as they passed through this layer, they lost all of that beautiful Caribbean sunlight, and everything turned completely black. She said it was totally anoxic down there, with absolutely no life whatsoever. The hydrogen sulfide layer acts as a chemical barrier that separates the living world above from the dead world below. This toxic zone forms at what scientists call the halocline, which is the boundary where dense salt water meets less dense fresh water from rainfall. Because there is virtually no water circulation in the blue hole, the hydrogen sulfide produced by sulfur-reducing bacteria simply accumulates and remains trapped at this depth. The decomposition of sargassum seaweed, which has been increasingly prolific in the Caribbean in recent years, adds even more sulfuric compounds to this deadly layer. Below the hydrogen sulfide barrier, the crew entered a realm of absolute stillness, and then their lights illuminated something disturbing. Scattered across the sloping walls and floor of the sinkhole were hundreds of conch shells. These were not empty shells that had simply drifted down from above. The team could see visible tracks in the sediment, showing where living conchs had desperately tried to climb the steep slopes. Hermit crabs lie motionless beside the conchs. All of them had wandered too close to the edge of the hole, tumbled in, and found themselves unable to escape. The steep walls and the oxygen-depleted water had sealed their fate. They had suffocated and now lay preserved in this underwater tomb, forming what the scientists began calling the conch graveyard. Slide marks in the sediment recorded their final moments. The exhausted creatures had struggled upward, lost consciousness from lack of oxygen, and slid back down to join the others. But the discoveries were only beginning. As the submarines pushed even deeper, approaching 120 meters near the bottom, the crew found something that sent shockwaves through the scientific community. Hanging from rocky overhangs were stalactites. Some of these mineral formations measured 9 to 12 meters in length, making them absolutely massive. This discovery was not just interesting, it was revolutionary. Here is why stalactites changed everything we thought we knew about the Great Blue Hole. Stalactites can only form in one very specific environment. They require air-filled caves where water drips slowly through stone, depositing calcium carbonate over thousands of years as carbon dioxide escapes into the atmosphere. This process is completely impossible underwater. Water cannot drip through water. Carbon dioxide cannot escape into an atmosphere that does not exist. The presence of these stalactites was absolute proof that the Great Blue Hole was once a dry cave system exposed to the air. Scientists now believe the cave formed during the last glacial maximum, which occurred between 26,500 and 19,000 years ago, when global temperatures were about 6 degrees Celsius colder than today. During this ice age, so much of the Earth's water was locked up in massive glaciers that sea levels dropped between 120 and 135 meters below current levels. When the Ice Age ended and the glaciers melted, a catastrophic event called Meltwater Pulse 1A occurred approximately 14,600 years ago. In less than 500 years, global sea levels rose between 16 and 24 meters. The ancient cave system flooded, the roof collapsed, and the Great Blue Hole, as we know it today, was born. Researchers from Rice University and Louisiana State University drilled sediment cores from the Blue Hole floor and discovered something even more remarkable. By analyzing the ratio of titanium to aluminum in the sediment layers, they could reconstruct thousands of years of rainfall patterns. Low titanium levels indicate drought because titanium is only released when rain weathers volcanic rock. The team documented an extreme century-long drought between 800 and 900 AD that coincided perfectly with the collapse of the classic Maya civilization. They found only 1 to 2 tropical cyclones per 2 decades during this period, compared to the normal 5 to 6. A second major drought, from 1000 to 1100 AD, matched the fall of the great city of Chichen Itza. Among these scientific treasures, the crew also found haunting reminders of the modern world. A 2-liter Coca-Cola bottle lay on the sediment. A lost GoPro camera still contained recoverable vacation photos from some unknown diver.
The first thing they saw sitting on the ocean bed 400 feet down were plastic bottles, and a lot of them.
And most sobering of all, they discovered 2 human bodies belonging to divers who had been lost in the hole and never recovered. The team made the difficult decision to leave the remains undisturbed. Erica Bergman stated that they respectfully informed the Belize government about the location, and everyone agreed that no recovery attempt would be made. She described the bottom as very dark and peaceful, a fitting resting place for those who had given their lives to explore this mysterious abyss. But The Great Blue Hole of Belize, as deadly as it has proven to be, is not the most dangerous blue hole on Earth. That terrifying distinction belongs to a place halfway around the world. A place that has claimed so many lives that one man has dedicated his entire existence to recovering the bodies of the dead. The Bone Collector. In the Sinai Peninsula of Egypt, approximately 10 kilometers north of a small coastal town called Dahab, there exists a blue hole in the Red Sea that has earned a reputation as the deadliest dive site on the planet. Conservative estimates place the death toll at more than 130 divers over a 15-year period, from 1997 to 2012. That averages out to more than 8 deaths every single year. Some estimates suggest the true number exceeds 200 fatalities, but no official records have ever been kept. The actual figure could be significantly higher than anyone realizes. The locals call it the Divers' Cemetery, the Divers' Graveyard. And one man knows this place better than any other human being alive. His name is Tarek Omar. He is an Egyptian technical diver and instructor who first arrived in Dahab in 1989 and has been diving the blue hole for almost 30 years.
Tarek Omar, a professional technical diver who pulled corpses out of this place, had the whole story that brings.
But the locals have given him other names that speak to the grim work he has undertaken. They call him the Elder Diver. They call him the Bone Collector. They call him the Gravekeeper. Since the late 1990s, Tarek has been involved in the majority of body recovery operations performed at the site. He has personally recovered more than 100 bodies from the depths of the blue hole. He has lost count of exactly how many. The only names he still remembers clearly are the first 2 bodies he ever brought back to the surface. Their names were Martin Gara and Conor O'Regan. In 1997, Martin Gara was a 22-year-old Irish diving instructor from Dunlawherry who had been working in Egypt for nearly a year. He loved the diving so much that he and his friend had made big plans. They were going to scout locations and then return to Ireland to start a travel agency specializing in overseas dive tours. His friend Conor O'Regan was 23 years old from Old Conna in Bray and had just completed an economics and philosophy degree at Trinity College Dublin. Both men were considered cautious and experienced divers by everyone who knew them. In November of that year, about a month before they were scheduled to return home, Martin and Conor joined a trip organized by PADI, the Professional Association of Diving Instructors, to explore the famous Blue Hole. During the dive, something went wrong. The 2 friends became separated from the rest of the group and found themselves alone in the darkness. Somehow, they descended too deep for the gas mixture they were using. At extreme depths, the nitrogen in regular compressed air has a narcotic effect on the human brain. Divers describe it as feeling drunk or intoxicated. Both Martin and Conor lost consciousness. Their regulators fell from their mouths. They sank together, deeper and deeper, until they came to rest at 102 meters below the surface. When the other divers realized the 2 men were missing and went back to search for them, it was already too late. Their bodies were found locked in an embrace. One had tried to save the other, and they had died together. Tarek Omar volunteered to recover the bodies. It was his first body recovery mission and the first recorded recovery from the Dahab Blue Hole. A memorial stone made of black marble now marks the site, inscribed simply with the words, "In loving memory." But Martin and Conor were only the beginning. Their story would become tragically common at this place. Careful and experienced divers would descend into the hole and simply never come back up. On the shore above the Blue Hole, a collection of memorial plaques lines the cliff faces and the path leading to the entry point. At least 14 documented memorial stones honor those who lost their lives in these waters. Prospective divers often visit these plaques before entering the water, reading the names and the dates, hoping they will not end up needing Tarek Omar's services. But the recovered dead represent only a small fraction of those who never surfaced, and the unique geography of this hole makes it a nearly perfect killing machine. The architecture of death. To understand why the Dahab Blue Hole claims so many lives, you first need to understand how blue holes form and what makes this particular one so deadly.
Sadly, the popular spot is famous for the large number of deaths that occurred here, because many divers.
During past ice ages, sea levels dropped dramatically, sometimes as much as 100 meters below their current position. This exposed vast networks of surface caves and sinkholes across the world's coastlines. Over thousands of years, slightly acidic rainwater slowly dissolved the limestone rock, carving out cave systems through a process called karstification. When the ice ages ended and sea levels rose again, salty seawater accelerated this dissolution process even further. Eventually, the roofs of many caves collapsed, creating massive circular holes that are now submerged beneath the ocean. The stable outer rims of harder rock remained, while the softer inner material dissolved away, which is why blue holes have that distinctive circular shape and those dramatic depth differentials between the edges and the center. The Great Blue Hole in Belize demonstrates this perfectly. The rim sits at just 10 meters depth, but crosses over the edge, and the walls plunge vertically down 124 meters in a single terrifying drop. This extreme depth differential creates the distinctive color contrast visible from above. Tropical blue waters surround a dark, almost black center that matches the color of the open ocean. The Egyptian Blue Hole near Dahab measures approximately 80 meters across and descends to just over 100 meters within the hole itself. But it possesses an additional feature that makes it uniquely treacherous. At a depth of approximately 52 to 56 meters, a massive natural tunnel called the Arch connects the Blue Hole to the open Red Sea. This tunnel is 26 meters long, and its floor slopes from 102 meters down to 120 meters at the seaward opening. Beyond the exit of the arch, the sea floor drops away in rapid increments, first to 130 meters, then to 150 meters, then to 250 meters, to 300 meters, to 800 meters, and ultimately beyond 1,000 meters into the true abyss. The problem is that the crystal clear water creates a deadly optical illusion. The arch looks like it is only about 10 meters long, when in reality it is more than twice that distance. Divers see the light at the other end and think they can easily swim through. They do not realize they are already at 55 meters depth, which is 15 meters beyond the recreational diving limit. At 55 meters on regular compressed air, nitrogen narcosis severely impairs judgment. Divers describe the sensation as similar to being drunk. Some become euphoric and lose all sense of danger. Others become fixated on a single idea and cannot think about anything else. The partial pressure of oxygen also approaches dangerous levels, potentially causing seizures without warning. There is also frequently an inward current flowing through the arch that increases gas consumption and makes the swim back against the flow even more difficult. The nearest recompression chamber is 22 kilometers away, along an unpaved road. For a diver suffering decompression sickness, those 22 kilometers might as well be on the moon. Then came the most deadly dive of all, the 400th dive. In 2011, a diver named Igor arrived at the Egyptian Blue Hole with an impressive diving resume.
This famous arch is located near the Egyptian city of Dahab, at the depth of 60 meters below the water.
He had completed exactly 400 logged dives over his career. He had reached depths of 40 meters, 50 meters, 66 meters, 85 meters, and even 106 meters. He considered himself ready for the ultimate challenge. Igor planned to dive to 150 meters. His 401st dive would take him deeper than he had ever been before. He began his descent through the famous arch at 50 meters. At 90 meters, he passed another diver who later reported that Igor looked shaky and unsteady. But when the other diver signaled to ask if he was okay, Igor gestured back that everything was fine. He continued downward, 120 meters, then 150 meters. He had reached the deepest point of his entire life. After a hard landing on a rocky ledge at 150 meters, Igor began his ascent. And that is when everything went catastrophically wrong. At 130 meters, Igor began gasping for breath. The extreme depth had taken its toll on his body. Panic overwhelmed him completely. In a moment of pure terror, he abandoned all the protocols he had been trained to follow and shot toward the surface without making a single decompression stop. For the depth he had reached, this decision was a death sentence. When a diver descends to extreme depths, the surrounding pressure forces nitrogen from their breathing gas to dissolve into their blood and tissues. This is a normal part of diving. The problem comes during the ascent. If the diver rises too quickly, the nitrogen does not have time to be safely eliminated through breathing. Instead, it comes out of solution and forms bubbles directly in the blood and tissues. These bubbles can block blood vessels. They can damage nerves. They can cause excruciating pain as they expand in joints and muscles. This condition is called decompression sickness, commonly known as the bends. The term originated in 1873 during the construction of the Brooklyn Bridge, when workers emerged from the high-pressure underwater chambers and developed a hunched posture from joint pain that resembled the fashionable Grecian bend stance of women in the 1820s. By the time Igor's head broke the surface of the water, the dissolved gases in his blood had been expanding rapidly throughout his entire ascent. Bubbles were blocking blood vessels all over his body. As his face emerged from the water, he let out a cry of pure agony. A few minutes later, he was dead. Igor became one of the few victims that Tarek Omar did not need to recover from the depths. But his death illustrated a sobering truth about the blue hole. Even 400 dives of experience could not prepare a person for the unforgiving physics of extreme depth. Of all the deaths at the Dahab blue hole, one stands above the rest as the most famous and most tragic. It is the one death that was captured entirely on camera, frame by horrifying frame. The camera that kept recording. In April of the year 2000, a man named Yuri Lipsky arrived in Dahab with a dream that had consumed him for years. Yuri was a 22-year-old Russian-Israeli diving instructor who desperately wanted to explore the legendary Blue Hole.
This is Yuri, the Russian guy. You heard of Yuri, of course. What we could do.
He had just visited a friend in Tel Aviv and made his way to the Sinai Peninsula specifically for this purpose. Before leaving home, Yuri had made a promise to his father. His father had a strong intuition about these things, and he made Yuri swear that he would not do anything dangerous or reckless. Yuri agreed. He would be careful. When Yuri arrived in Dahab, he did not want to dive alone. He spent hours walking between dive shops, trying to find someone to accompany him. Eventually, he met Tarek Omar himself. Tarek immediately recognized that Yuri lacked the technical training necessary for deep diving at this site. He warned Yuri twice about the dangers. He offered to give him 2 weeks of proper training before attempting anything serious. Yuri refused. He said he did not have enough time. Instead, Yuri found a local guide willing to join him for a basic dive. He equipped himself with a single air tank and no backup equipment. He strapped a video camera to his helmet, and on April 28, 2000, he entered the water. The footage that camera recorded would become one of the most watched diving death videos in history. The recording begins near the surface. The water is crystal blue and absolutely beautiful. Other divers are visible in the distance. Coral reefs shimmer in the sunlight. Fish dart past the camera. Everything appears peaceful and calm. Yuri fiddles with the camera for a moment, attaching what appears to be a protective case to help it withstand pressure at depth. He approaches 2 other divers, getting close enough that he nearly touches them. Then he turns and looks down into the darkness below. Far beneath him, bubbles float upward from divers who are deeper and out of sight. Yuri begins swimming toward those bubbles. As he descends, the water grows progressively darker. The beautiful Caribbean blue gives way to a deep navy, then to an inky blackness that seems to press in from all sides. Yuri checks his dive computer. The screen displays 81 meters. Regular compressed air is not recommended below 40 meters. Yuri was already more than twice that depth. Nitrogen narcosis would have been clouding his mind at this point. Thinking clearly becomes nearly impossible at such depths. The weight of the water column above creates pressure that compresses everything, including the gas, in his buoyancy control device. Yuri attempted to inflate his BCD to slow his descent and begin rising back toward the surface, but he was too deep. The pressure was too great. His equipment was too heavy. In his desperation to become more buoyant, he overfilled the device and it burst. In the footage, Yuri struggles for several more moments. He is probably trying frantically to swim upward, but it is already too late. The weight of his equipment and the impaired state of his mind make escape impossible. The camera shows his dive computer one final time. It reads 91.6 meters. Then the footage cuts to black. When Yuri did not surface after 40 minutes, everyone on the surface knew what it meant. His father arrived in Dahab the following day, devastated and pleading with the locals to recover his son's body. Tariq Omar volunteered for what would become the deepest body recovery anyone had ever attempted at that time. He found Yuri lying face down at approximately 115 meters, weighed down by far too much equipment. The camera was still attached to his helmet. It had been rated for only 75 meters, so everyone assumed it had been destroyed by the pressure and any footage would be lost forever. They were wrong. The camera had recorded everything. When the camera was returned to Yuri's parents, along with his other belongings, they played the footage without knowing what they were about to see. They watched their son's final moments unfold before their eyes. Tariq Omar later expressed profound regret about this. He said that if he had known the camera still worked, he would have flooded it himself to destroy the footage. No parent should have to witness what was on that recording. The final 5 seconds of the video were accidentally captured the following day when someone was testing to see if the camera was still functional. Today, the footage serves as a warning to new divers about the unforgiving dangers of this place. It has received more than 8 million views on YouTube. Perhaps this is exactly why the Egyptian blue hole continues to claim lives. The surface conditions create an illusion of safety that conceals the death trap lurking below. The deep unknown. In 2021, guided by tips from local fishermen who spoke of a strangely calm patch of water, scientists from an organization called EcoSur explored a tropical estuary off the southeastern coast of Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula. What they found would eventually rewrite the record books. The blue hole they discovered was named Tam Ja, which means deep water in the Mayan language.
They verified it as the second deepest blue hole in the world and named it Tam Ha, deep water in Mayan, the language here.
Initial measurements in 2021 using echo sounder technology recorded a depth of 274.4 meters. That alone would have made it the second deepest blue hole in the world. But in December 2023, researchers returned with more advanced equipment. They lowered a CTD profiler into the darkness. At 420 meters, the instrument was still descending. They deployed a 500-meter cable. It did not touch bottom. Tam Ja is now confirmed as the deepest known blue hole on Earth, surpassing the previous record holder, the Dragon Hole in the South China Sea, which reaches 300.89 meters. Water chemistry analysis at extreme depths revealed something remarkable. The water below 400 meters resembles Caribbean Sea conditions rather than the expected bay water, suggesting possible submarine tunnels connecting Tam Ja to the open ocean. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration classifies blue holes as underwater sinkholes formed in carbonate rock. They are considered ecological hotspots with unique seawater chemistry that supports life forms found nowhere else on Earth. In the oxygen-deprived depths where hydrogen sulfide accumulates, chemosynthetic bacteria thrive by converting chemical energy into organic matter. These extremophiles provide fascinating insights into how life might exist on other worlds, such as Europa and Enceladus, where subsurface oceans may have similar conditions. Dean's Blue Hole in the Bahamas, which reaches 202 meters, has become the premier location for competitive freediving. The annual Vertical Blue International Freediving Competition held there has seen athletes like William Trubridge of New Zealand reach 102 meters on a single breath without fins, and Alexei Molchanov of Russia descend to 136 meters with the aid of a weighted sled. Back in Belize, scientists have observed that the Great Blue Hole will not exist forever. Every day, waterfalls of sand cascade into its depths, slowly filling it like an underwater hourglass. The same geological processes that created this wonder are now gradually erasing it. Eventually, the abyss that has drawn explorers and scientists and thrill seekers for generations will disappear entirely, swallowed by the same forces that gave it birth. Until that distant day arrives, these mysterious sinkholes continue calling to humanity. Some seek scientific discovery in their ancient sediments and extreme life forms. Others chase the thrill of diving into Earth's hidden vertical caves. And some, despite all the warnings and memorial plaques and tragic footage recorded by cameras that never should have survived, still enter the water and descend into the beautiful and deadly blue. The depths of our oceans still hold countless secrets that we are only beginning to understand. What do you think lies waiting in the unexplored blue holes around the world? Share your thoughts in the comments below.